So we got some big news here today involving the Esports World Cup. By the way, as of now, we do not know, as of the recording of this video, I should say, we don't know if StarCraft 2 is going to be at the Esports World Cup. I think it'll be there. I think they have to have at least one RTS, and I don't know what other RTS they could use. It wouldn't make sense for them to use StarCraft 1 over StarCraft 2 because StarCraft 1 is primarily Korean. Even though if you're watching this, you're one of the people that is probably a big StarCraft 1 fan. The reality is StarCraft 2 is just much bigger than StarCraft 1 outside of Korea, much more international. But we know there's going to be about 24 games announced. So fingers crossed for StarCraft 2. But there's been a big announcement that I think a lot of people didn't see coming. I'm going to let this video play, and then I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on this. So, chess is going to be at the Esports World Cup. I did not see that coming. So, if you guys haven't, I'm going to have some chess playing while I talk over this. First of all, I'm a big fan of chess. I play chess every day on my phone. I always have a couple games going on, like where you have 1 to 3 days to make a move. I have people I play with in Korea and friends I play with that are, not living in Korea, and I do try to play a couple 10-minute games a day. So I think this is a really smart move by them. I know that some people have been reacting to this by saying chess isn't an esport, it's like a board game. And I think people are getting a little bit caught up in like the whole definition of esport. So I want to talk about that for a second. Where did the word esport come from, and why do we use that word? That word originated in Korea. It was used, in Europe and North America a little bit. But when the Koreans committed to using the term esport, in the U.S., especially with organizations like MLG, there was still some talk about maybe we should call it competitive gaming. Maybe we should, And the reason why they wanted to call it competitive gaming is because when you say sport, that elicits a certain type of idea. We're thinking of like... stadiums, outdoors, the physicalness of a lot of sports, whether it's soccer or rugby, cycling, whatever it is. So the reason why Koreans committed to the term esport was partially because it was much easier to use that term to get governments to cooperate with you for your event. Even to this day, there is still a stigma around video games. Although that's gone way down. Now esports is actually a thing. People know what it is. A lot of people would laugh at you if you tried to bring it up, anything competitive gaming at all. So that's why that term stuck. If you wanted to have, let's say, a big event in Busan, like we've seen with StarCraft several times, it's much easier to go to a government organization and just say, this is just electronic sports. Can we get your approval to use, let's say, a beach or to... use a convention center. So it's basically a shorthand for people that are just not familiar with this space to understand what you're talking about and get into it. Like if I had to do a Smash Brothers tournament, let's say I'm a tournament organizer, it's going to be way easier for me to go to, let's say I want to go to a hotel and rent out a ballroom to run a tournament. It's going to be easier for me to just say an esports event than it is for me to say Smash Brothers. They're going to go, what's Smash Brothers? I'm going to say, it's an old game with all the Nintendo characters, but it's really competitive. But you need to, it's only on GameCube, and you need to have, monitors with the big backs on them. Basically, esports just gets that out of the way and gets you sometimes government funding or someone to agree to let you do it. So that's why that was so sticky. But let's zoom out for a second. All of these esports titles effectively are just games. You look at StarCraft, like let's take a look at StarCraft 2 here. It's just a bunch of pieces on a board, right? Obviously, there are massive differences between chess and StarCraft. One is turn-based, although chess uses a timer. The other is real-time. But fundamentally, these are just intellectual sports. Some esports are more physical than others. You got StarCraft where you have to have high APM. You've got, you look at something like Street Fighter or Tekken where the inputs have to be very precise. You can have turn-based games like Auto Battlers or Hearthstone. I remember when Hearthstone came out, by the way, it was the same dumb conversation. This can't be an esport, it's a card game. They're just competitive games. And when you look at chess, this is just the oldest and most respected and most global competitive game. More people are playing chess than ever before. And chess is kind of in its own weird world where I think, the FGC is a little bit like this, where, you talk to a lot of FGC people and they're like, we're not esports, we're FGC. It's like, you're a fucking competitive game, dude. Okay? Whatever you think you are, at the end of the day, these games are played on stages, people watch them, whether it's run on a console or a PC. You have sponsorship overlap. You're kind of the same thing. And people get a little bit caught up in identity and definitions, but, as an example, so I had the weekend off, and usually on my weekends off, if I'm not out seeing friends or getting dinner or drinks with people, I'm at home playing games or I'm reading books. The 4 games I played this weekend, Street Fighter 6, Hearthstone, I was messing around with Mechabellum, and I was playing chess. And for me, chess is just another game. A lot of these chess tournaments now, obviously we're looking at a game that's being played over a board. A lot of these games are done on PC. And now most games globally are played on PC for chess. So I think this is a smart move because the Esports World Cup is trying to bring legitimacy. And I think chess is by far the most respected game. Someone in YouTube chat's asking, but where is the line between game and sport? I think you're missing the point. We can turn this into a college class discussion of how do we categorize things. But the fact of the matter is that this was basically the big game before we had PCs, before we had the internet. And I think it's a really smart move to bring these things closer together. I mean, we could take a step in another direction, guy in YouTube chat. We could say, okay, let's say that they put DDR or Pump It Up or any of these dancing games, right? That's much more physical, okay? So why not checkers or backgammon? Well, you could put those in, but checkers is generally considered, well, we all know checkers is a less complex game. There's a reason why we would pick chess over, like, I don't know. I mean, think of all the basic games you've played that are kind of unserious and uncompetitive. But the point I'm trying to make is that you could have bringing these things together should be beneficial for chess, which if you look at a lot of their events, they're kind of, I mean, they've done some interesting things in chess as far as events go. They've done things where they pull the player off the board and kind of put them in a private area and ask them what they're thinking about the current situation in their game and what they're planning. But chess has always been a little bit like, straight tie, tuck your shirt in, old school with vibes. And I think what EFG, which was formerly ESL, now Faceit Group and ESL have merged together, and they're all Saudi-owned. They could probably put on a much more spectacular production and probably do a lot more interesting things that, frankly, conventional chess isn't doing. When chess got big on Twitch, by the way, Hikaru, who's over here on the right, I'm a big fan of this guy. He's a really good, I don't know the exact time limit, maybe bullet chess player. Over here on the left is Magnus, the best chess player of all time. Hikaru did PogChamps, which did really well. It got all these streamers into playing chess. It really helped grow the popularity. And there was some people in the chess community that were kind of, in some ways, acting like this was bad for chess. Like chess shouldn't be played in this way, or that, it doesn't honor the game the way it should be approached. And I could not disagree more. I think that, chess is still one of the best games ever made, just like StarCraft, just like Street Fighter, just like Counter-Strike. And bringing this together is really exciting. One of the goals with the Saudi-led Esports World Cup is to try to get this into more of the mainstream and to make it more profitable, because esports famously is not a very profitable thing. I'm at the top of my field. I do fine, but I work for a living, right? So I think this could bring in new sponsors. It could be very helpful for chess. And at the same time, I think, let's say that we can get the esports into the Olympics, into other places, more mainstream. I think chess could help us get there. So I think this is really exciting. I believe the partnership was with chess.com. I don't know the details about this exactly. But I think this is cool. Again, we still don't know if StarCraft's going to be in it. I'm pretty confident they'll have at least one RTS game, and I would just imagine that would be StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 is still bigger than the other RTS games. The only thing that maybe comes close to that's not in the kind of Blizzard franchise of like Warcraft 3 and StarCraft would maybe be Age of Empires 2, which they weren't using before, so I don't see why they'd use that now. As much as esports never be the Olympics, I'll see you in a couple years. The Olympics is actually losing a lot of money and a lot of viewership, so they are actually interested. I met with the IOC for StarCraft 2. This is back before Blizzard kind of fell apart. Blizzard as we used to know it. But anyways, I think it's cool to kind of bring these games together. I think a lot of people in the chess world, similar to the problem that is in the FGC, where a lot of times they think of themselves as like not an esport. People get caught up in these sophomoric arguments about, well, is it this or is it that? And it's like, okay, but let's move past that for a second. Do you see that these are effectively just different types of games? These intellectual sports, these things you can kind of pour yourself into and obsess over and keep learning about forever. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. I'm actually really curious what you think about chess now being part of the Esports World Cup and what role that's going to play here. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? You can always join me on my Twitch stream where I record these videos live as well as play a bunch of other games. Yeah, finally, just thank you for watching. I'll see you in a future video. Go to tastelessthreads.com, my merch shop. We got a lot of cool stuff there. Bye-bye.